special workshop. Today, we're going to be breaking down scaling Facebook ads to $1,000 a day. My goal today is to really simplify Facebook ads for you, especially when it comes time to build the campaign itself, do your interest targeting, how to do your ads, all of that. And oftentimes we can really overcomplicate it. So part of what I'm going to show you guys is also an ad produced with like 50, 100 bucks, and ads spend $6,000 or $8,000 sale, and it's super simple. Let me pull up my workshop here. Before we get into the ads, let's just really quick touch on funnels. So you guys are all familiar with different funnels. You probably have heard about the application funnel, which is more getting someone's email address, collecting it as a lead. That's for more higher ticket items. And then we obviously have our funnels where we're just sending people directly to a landing page going for the sale. That's usually for items that are less than $250 or more. So there's low ticket, medium ticket, high ticket. I'm going to be breaking those down for you and how we can think about when do we actually turn an ad campaign off? When should we keep it scaling? When should we duplicate it and ramp it up? So here's the problem that most businesses face. Most businesses hope that their customers are going to find them simply because their product is good, which isn't true at all. It's only true for about the top 5% of the offers that solve problems in a way that no one else does. For the rest of us, funnels is how we're going to systematize a predictable flow of new customers in our client's business or your own business. Okay. So the best way to think about it is when you meet with clients, one, we need to understand their funnel and their offer. Going back to this slide, we don't want to, like, let's say a client has 10 different offers and 10 different things they can do. We don't want to try to take on 10 offers at once and build 10 landing pages and 10 different funnels. We only want to focus on what makes the most sense for that client, whatever produces the most ROI for them. Is everyone with me so far? Got it. Okay. So once we know, okay, we're working with a med spa and our goal is to get more customers in the door for treatments, right? We understand, okay, maybe a great way to do that would be local Facebook ads, could be local Google ads, but we want to pick one of those avenues. We're going to then start to design our marketing once we understand what platform we're running with. If you're doing Google ads, it's a little different than Facebook ads, obviously. And then create your product. For us as content strategists, think about it as more as like we're creating the overall funnel and just keep adding to it as we go. Okay. So the simplest form of a funnel could be an ad to a landing page with a checkout, right? Then we can start adding more ads. We can add retargeting. We can add email drips. All of that is building out our funnel deeper and better. But overall, just the funnel is the traffic source that sends people to a desirable and valuable win-win offer. Okay. Oh, I'm on the wrong. That's why I was kidding. That's the wrong presentation. Close that one out. Anyways, the other big thing we want to pay attention to is if we can have an average order value that is greater than our cost per acquisition. So with ads, we have 4 goals. Essentially what we want to do, guys, is keep testing different offers and messaging until we have a simple funnel that converts high with the highest average order value or lifetime value and the highest customer satisfaction. Once again, we can only focus on one funnel at a time. This is the hardest part of the business. Cracking funnel number 1 is where 90% of people give up. And it's something that you guys need to take into account as well, because when you start building ad campaigns for clients, sometimes it takes 5 or 10 creatives to really hit the nail on the head with that client. And each of those is results, is progress forward. If you find an ad didn't work, that is progress. Okay. So that's why when you start talking to clients about Facebook ads, look, ideally we want a minimum of 3 to 6 months, because it takes time to test these things, to figure it all out. The bigger the budget, the faster we go. The smaller the budget, the slower we go. Is everyone still with me? Okay. So when it comes to ads, we have 3 different main categories we pay attention to. First is the creative, right? Creative is going to be your video. It could also be an image ad. On-screen text. Does anyone know what that is? James?
It's the copy. This is above it.
Not the body copy here. It is the copy. It's like the meme style banner above the video. So, we do like a 16:9 video and it's got the meme bars up top that says, learn professional filmmaking in 14 days. You've seen our.
Oh, is that the thing that Facebook tests because you're not allowed to have more than 20% of your images text? Or
right, right here. So this is our on-screen text, this meme banner up top or below. Okay. So we have our videos. We could also be running image ads. Those also work well. We have our on-screen text, which is like the meme banner. We have our headline, which is either the headline in Facebook itself that has the call to action button next to it, or it's the first line in your body copy. And then we also have our body copy. Okay. So that is, when I say creative, that's like all of what I'm referring to, is that bucket of things. Okay. Next, we have our audience. Okay. And when it comes to audience, the biggest thing we're looking at is different interest targeting. Now we can go narrow or broad, and that affects our, and the placement strategy could be cold traffic, retargeting, whatever it is. Oops. But we want to find several interests that we can test, a minimum of 2, especially when we first launch a campaign. Minimum of 2 interests, a minimum of 2 video creatives. Okay. And then our KPI milestones. Who knows what KPIs stand for?
Key performance indicators.
There we go. All right. So when it comes to KPIs, upstream and downstream KPIs, and then we also have our funnel conversion rates. Does anyone know what a upstream KPI would be?
Cost per click.
Even before someone clicks, what's another metric we can measure?
CPM.
Right. And what is CPM?
Cost per 1,000 views or something.
Yeah, it's impressions. Okay.
Yeah.
So upstream, it's basically as far up the funnel we can go. If we're looking at the funnel that funnels people down, we're all the way at the top here. This is your upstream. This is your cost per million. And I'm going to get to benchmark numbers in a second that you guys should write down, print out, put up somewhere. Then you have your click-through rate and your cost per click. We also have cost per lead. If we are running like an application funnel where we're getting people to enter their email address, we have cost per leads here. And then we also have our total cost per acquisition. And a cost per lead could also be someone submitting like a discovery form or something. It doesn't have to be like the email opt-in. But then our cost per acquisition, who knows what that is? Teddy.
Cost per acquisition, I am blanking.
So yeah, this would be the cost to acquire a new customer. So now that customer has paid us, how much did it cost us to actually get that sale in?
Oh, I see.
Okay. And so that would be more downstream. Everyone with that so far? Upstream, impressions, top cost per clicks, all of that. Downstream, you're moving into cost per leads, cost per acquisition, most downstream you can go. And then we have our funnels conversion values, which are essentially everything that happens after they click through on the ad. So what happens on the sales page? What is the conversion rates there? What is the actual lead conversion rates? Like we have 100 leads come in. How many of those actually turned into customers? 20? Great. You have a 20% lead conversion rate. How many people closed out of sales calls? You had 50 sales calls. How many people showed? How many actually closed? Those are all funnel conversion values. Okay. So now we get to the fun stuff. So this is kind of level 1 when it comes to ads. Like I said before, we need a minimum of how many creatives to start running ads?
2.
And we need a minimum of how many audiences to test against?
2.
Perfect. Okay. So it could be bigger than that, right? It all depends on budget. If you guys have a smaller budget, it's most likely going to be just 2 videos against 2 audiences. If you're running like 3,000 to 5,000 out the gate, maybe you're doing 4 different video creatives and 4 different audiences. Okay. But this is where I would recommend most campaigns starting. This is as basic as it gets. So overall within our ad campaign, we have our general campaign, and then we have campaigns, ad sets, and ads. Okay. Over here, you see we have creative 1 and creative 2, right? And it's the same down here, creative 1 and creative 2. The only thing that's different is up here, we're sending interest one, creative one, interest one, creative two, and then interest two, we're also running the same exact ads to those people.
Ceebz,
Yes.
if let's say you had 4 creatives and 4 audiences, would that graphic then look like 4 interests? In fact, well, what would it? God, I'm just trying to think. There would be, because you're running 4 ads there, aren't you? Basically,
So
two
it would
creatives.
look more like,
It would look like there would be 16 ads running. Would that be right?
yeah, so you would have, oh, this is all groups. Hold on. Or ungroup. So you would have, what did you say?
Well, just make it simple. Make it three interests and 3 ads, maybe.
Okay. So then you would have interest 1, 2. You would have 3 of those. You have 3 of these.
Yeah.
And then you would have this would be CR3. And then you would have the same exact thing, but you would have a third interest in there.
Yeah.
So you would have 9 different ads running at that time.
Right.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have 2 interests. We're running 2 ads too. The huge thing here, guys, is when you are doing this, when it comes to the creative, and remember when I say creative, I mean the video, the body copy, the copy itself, the headline, all of that is going to stay the exact same. Everything is going to stay the same. The main things that we're going to change in them are just the creative and interest targeting. Okay, so on-screen text, headline, body copy. Even if it's learn more, we don't want to say find out more in one and then learn more in the other. Shop now in one, learn more in the other. We want all of those to be the exact same, just the video and the interest targeting to be different. So coming back to this is the same right here, right? We could also show this another way. We could have interest 1 running creative 1 and interest 2 running creative 1 here. These are the same exact ads, the same videos, the same copy, all of that. The only thing that is different is the 2 interests. Why?
Because you have to test each creative with each interest.
Right. If we ran 2 different video, like let's say we just had, how can I do this on group? All right, let's say we just did this. Interest 1, we ran 1 ad, and interest 2, we ran a second ad. Let's say interest 1 did 3 times as good. Do we know that this is the best ad?
No, you don't know whether it's the ad set or the ad that's actually causing the success.
Exactly. If we change too many variables, we have no measure of what actually impacted those changes. Okay. So if we just change the creatives and just the interest, that's how we're going to run a true split test to figure out what's actually happening. You guys with this so far? Teddy, do you understand that?
I'm a little bit confused, but
Ask your question.
so what's the difference between a ad set and the ads? I know the ads is the creative, right? The ad set is it the messaging
No,
or
so
the copy, the headlines and the copy and the
so think of it as when you build a campaign, right? The campaign level here, let's say we want to just target cold traffic. So this is a cold traffic campaign. Okay. Then when we get into the actual cold traffic campaign, we're going to have several different ad sets. So I'll come in here.
Are you doing 1 ad per ad set? Do you ever put multiple ads in an ad set?
I'll get to that. In the beginning, one ad per ad set. So, okay, so Teddy, you can see these are all campaigns. We have cold traffic, retargeting, and then we have one for retail sales as well. So if I go into our cold traffic campaign, these are our ad sets now. An ad set is a set of ads. So think of it as you could put 10 ads within an ad set, and Facebook will test all 10 of those different things to see which performs best. The way we do it though is just, and it's probably not going to have it in here. So see, we went from ad set, right? Just this group. And then within it, now we're at just the ads and we're running 3 ads within this. So you have campaigns, ad sets, ads.
Yeah, I remember those when I did my my what do you call it? Nonprofit. But I couldn't really understood like what's the difference in an ad set and the ad campaign. But okay.
The campaign is just they're just ways to keep things organized, dude.
Okay.
It's the simplest way to put it is like, think about it. If you had if you work for a big e-commerce brand, they're going to have 20 different sales throughout the year that they're going to create a new campaign for each one of those. And within that, they can create several ad sets and put those ads in each of those ad sets. So stick with me. If you keep getting lost, we'll jump into it. Okay. All right. So now when it comes time to actually run these, let's say, all right. So the way we want to look at running our ads is with low ticket offers. So anything under 250, if let's say a product costs $100, right? And if we spend more than $150 in each of these and we get no results, that's where we want to turn that ad set off. Okay, so if it's like $100 product and we spend 1.5, the cost of that, and nothing is actually happening, that's where we're like, okay, maybe we need to rework some things. However, if let me step one back. Guys, you have to keep in mind, these are general rules for Facebook. There's no like Facebook Bible that says you need to do things this way, right? So when I say spend 1.5 product units, and if it doesn't kill it, right? One other thing you'd look at is if your upstream KPIs, your click-through rates are doing great, you know, you're getting good cost per clicks, all of that. If that's looking great, maybe test one more audience just to see if maybe you missed the audience. But overall, we want to kill any of the low performers. If you're getting break-in or negative sales, you can test it against more audiences, and you'll repeat this cycle until you have 1 to 2 solid winners producing sales. So Anthony with 14-Day Filmmaker, I think he was like 40 ads deep when he like really cracked the code on what was just crushing. Okay. So why, when we look at this, why is this X'd out, this X'd out, this X'd out, and interest 2 X'd out, but both interest 1 is here? Why would both of those stay? And what would our next thing be? Like, in other words, why would this be X'd out, but interest 1 isn't?
Because CR2 has worked with interest 1. So we know that we've got success there somewhere. It's either with interest 1, that ad set, or it's with that creative. So we don't know, we don't want to cut off interest 1 yet. Interest 1 is still possibly good, and CR2 is still good.
Nailed it. Nice work. Exactly. Because interest 1 has performed with this creative 2, right? Maybe creative 1 just missed the mark. And now we need to come up with creative 3, plug it into interest 1, and then we can split test to see if that does better than the second creative. Okay. So does everyone understand that, what I just went over? Teddy, does that make sense? In other words, this interest performed here. So we're not going to disqualify the interest altogether. Just this ad didn't work within that interest. So now we know, hey, based on our first test, interest 1 works, creative 2 works. Now we set up another test where we can say, hey, let's test interest 1 against creative 3, and then do the same against interest 1 and creative 2. And then let's bring in interest 3 and run both of those against it. Just test a new audience too. So I'll show you guys that in a second. But here's one interesting thing, especially when it comes to medium or higher ticket offers. So we'll use 30-day content strategist, perfect example. The reason, like based on that last slide, I would be willing to spend up to $800+ per ad set. If it didn't sell, then I would turn it off. That seems like a lot of money to spend on a test, right? $800 to test. So what we can do with higher ticket stuff is going back to our upstream and downstream. We can start looking at our cost per lead as that actual, as our like North Star metric. We want a cost per lead to be anywhere between $10 to $25. If you're getting $50 leads, does that mean it's the worst campaign in the world and you suck at life? No, it just means maybe you're going after higher quality traffic that might cost more. Okay. So we do this because now we can spend $50 an ad set to understand if it's actually performing instead of 800. Do you guys follow that? So in other words, instead of looking at, okay, product is 700, we've spent 800, it still hasn't performed, let's turn it off, man, we just wasted $800. We'll start to see what our lead within our first 100 or $200. If our cost per lead on this new ad and new interest happens to be $200, we only got 1 lead. Hey, something is off with this. So we would kill that. And then we keep everything else and let it run for a full unit. Okay. So the big key for level 1, test simple muffins, not cakes. It's another Anthony phrase. What do we mean by that? What's harder to make, a muffin or a cake? I don't know, because I don't cook that often. But for this example, muffins are a lot easier to make than baking the cake, taking the cake out and decorating the cake, putting the layers together and doing the icing piping and all of that stuff, right? So when it comes to level 1, finding, developing those winners, we need to start to develop our KPIs. Okay, I'm going to go over in a second here, guys. Where is it at? If you want, you can just screenshot this right now. These are going to be kind of your general acceptable average KPIs. Now, that being said, this is what we can use until we got data of our own. So for where's CPL? CPL is $10 to $25. If you're getting $5 leads, does that mean your like funnel's broken? No, it might mean you're just working in a blue ocean opportunity. Maybe your ads are really crushing it. Maybe your offer's really resonating with your audience, right? But when you guys can start to understand this is when you can actually start going in, working with the marketing team and whatnot to be like, hey, well, your click-through rate's only 0.5. That just seems really low. When's the last time you refreshed your ads? You know, how have you ever performed better than 1%? Whatever it is. So we want to understand these just because it lets us take on the right clients a lot better. Okay. Where was I? So as we go, and this is why, once again, I really want to stress this point, as we go, we develop our KPIs. What we want to do is basically run tests and then evaluate the next test based on the first ones. So this is where when the biggest thing I get from people is like, how do I prove results? How do I know? How do we show this? How do we that? It doesn't, like, all you're doing is month 1, we're going to see the results. We're going to show you the results. If month 2, we're not getting better, something's up, you know, and then we can have a conversation around that. But when you start to develop your KPIs for your clients themselves, that's where you're really going to get stuff dialed in. And then your goal each month is just, how can we get the cost per click down? How can we get our click-through rates up? How can we get our cost per lead down? How can we create a lower cost per acquisition? As you build campaigns, that's just going to be the goal over time. and then you evaluate them based on that. What this will let you do is start to develop a list of winning creatives and different audiences. Okay. And then you'll start to see the messaging, creative trends, what's resonating, what isn't resonating. And it's really important for when we get to horizontal scaling. So what happens if we don't get any traction? What do we do? Well, if the KPIs were decent, but you didn't get any sales, test more creatives. If you've done multiple rounds and you spent 15, okay, so this here is basically saying, look, if you keep testing new creatives and you have good click-through rates and you're getting leads, yet nothing is actually selling, you need to be looking at your offer and your landing page. You're getting people off Facebook to the offer or the landing page, but that's where it's failing. That's how I closed that 25K deal with Children of America. They were crushing it with ads, but then their conversions were really low once it actually came time to submit a lead. And we realized it was only at like 0.6%, which was low. And I told them, look, we got to work on your landing page and the overall offer, you know, like make it just rock solid. If your KPIs are terrible, new creatives and new audiences, and then you evaluate your offer. That's just like continue evaluating. Okay. All right. So here's where we were at before. Remember, we ran this first test. We found out CR2 worked. So now what we're doing, this is another variation of it. So what we can do is take the same interest, right? Interest one again, the same CR2. And now what we're doing is we can change the on-screen text or the headline. And we can test that 3 different times. Looking at this example, let's say this was creative 2 with the first headline, right? Maybe this headline just performs twice as good just by changing that headline. So what we want to do at this stage is test out some of these headlines to see what our overall messaging should be throughout the duration of this campaign. Okay, so
Steve,
we're,
sorry.
yeah.
Is this still the initial testing before we start scaling, or
Correct.
is this, or
Well,
is this?
so this is more like optimizing your winners. Okay, so let's say at level 1, James, you did exactly all this, but they all flopped, and they all were just like not doing well. You have to go back and create interest 3 and interest 4. And you could test CR1 and CR2 in those 2 interests and see if one of those work, or you could create new creatives and try to test them in interest 1 and interest 2. We need to find something that is working and getting good metrics in the beginning. Then we can go in and kind of optimize from there, that ad. And all we're doing is we're not changing the actual video. We're just changing that meme banner up top, because that headline can affect your sales tremendously. Like difference between tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, literally a headline like that. Okay. And then down here, why would he bring in interest 3?
Because you don't know, on the example on the left, you don't know whether it's interest 1 or it's CR2 that's optimized. So you keep CR2, but you need to try it with another interest just to see.
Yeah. So essentially it's like, hey, we're going to be running this test for 4 or 5 days. Might as well test another interest with these and see if the top one performs in both of these. We know, hey, that headline is winning. Maybe interest 3 performs better than interest 1. And now you have a brand new interest that can be working. Right. So it's just another way. You could just run just this test. But once again, as you get bigger, you're going to be adding more and more tests as you go. So that would let you just test out a different interest with those different headlines as well, with an ad that you already know performs. Okay. And that's all we did here. Is just we're finding the ideal copy combinations. Guys with it? Cool. All right. So level 3 is where we can start getting into vertical scaling. And this is what most people, like the general rule for Facebook is you want to scale your ad sets by 20% per day. But that doesn't really matter that much. It's just people need rules. So someone made a rule and people follow it. But Paul, Anthony, me, like we'll triple, quadruple ad campaign some days if we're feeling it and it makes sense. But with vertical scaling, essentially you're duplicating that ad set and adding more budget to it without changing any of those variables.
Can you remind us of why you duplicate it?
We want to duplicate it because what happens is when the Facebook algorithm, when you say, hey, interest 3, and there's 100,000 people in a pie, let's say a circle. When we say, hey, we want you to target these 100,000 people with this ad and our budget's $10 a day. Facebook doesn't just start targeting 100,000 people in that interest. What they'll do is they'll take like a sliver, like a 1 to 5% pool of that audience. So maybe you only have 5,000 of the 100,000 people that they're initially going to show this ad to see how it does. What happens, James, is when we duplicate it and we change the budget, it signifies to the algorithm, hey, this is a new ad set and new things. Go back into those 100,000 people and find the most appropriate slice, other 5% that we can start targeting these to. So we'll go out and grab another 5,000 people from that audience instead of just working those same exact people. But if that first group is working, we don't want to turn that off, right? We want it to keep going after those first group of 5,000. And by duplicating, adding some budget, now we're going after a second group within that audience that we've already know is performing, and it might perform even better. Do you follow that?
Yeah. So how many times do you duplicate it then? You keep duplicating it as long, depending on how much budget you've got, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I duplicate like all the time. So like with this, you know, he duplicated once, doubled the budget. Hey, it's still performing. Duplicate again, add more budget. A week later, you can duplicate it again. And that's how you can keep scaling that single ad set out. And with our decade campaign, that's been the majority of what we do. It's just certain audiences, certain creatives, duplicate, send it out again. Okay, so this is vertical scaling. This is the most common way to scale that you'll hear people do. If you start to plateau, just keep your budget steady. If you start to lose profitability, you want to start scaling back, turning off those low performing ads. Okay.
So you never increase the budget on an ad, you always duplicate it?
I always duplicate first.
Yeah. And I mean, from experience, it's crazy. You try to add budget to an ad and then it just fucks everything up.
Yeah, dude. That's why I don't touch him. There's a guy, I forget his name, but he spends, I think he said he was spending like $5 million a month for clients. And he's like, there's days, dude, where the landing page is broken, but the ad is so in the algorithm, we will blow $5,000 sending traffic to a broken landing page that day, knowing that if we pause that ad and turn it back on a day later, we lose our traction with the algorithm. So he'll just keep letting it run if it's performing until the page is back up. So that's why I'm always trying to duplicate. And that's why with clients, I always try to specify like, look, we need budget in the beginning of the month. Otherwise, we're going to pause your campaign. Pausing your campaign hurts the algorithm, hurts our traction, hurts everything. So it's another little thing that can help you guys get payment in early on. Okay. So this is vertical scaling. Any other questions about that? Cool. All right. So horizontal scaling. This is where essentially, is this where he goes into pooled audiences? Okay. So basically saying, okay, we got ad set with interest number 3 and creative 2 is working. We're spending money there. As you start testing out other things, you're scaling outwards to test out other interest, right? But you're not doing $300 a day. Maybe you're only spending 100 on these to test this new creative in these 2 new interests. Teddy, do you follow this? We'll go back. you started, this is our performing ad. This is what won our initial test. Interest 3 with creative 2. So what we want to do is now take creative 2 and send it to 2 other interests. So we created interest 4 and interest 5, and we're using the same exact ad, same copy, all of that. Only difference is we're spending less in these than the 300, let's say, because we want to just see if these are working first.
Do you have a rule of thumb about what fraction of the overall campaign budget do you use to do these new tests?
No is the answer. I honestly always start my stuff at like $5 or $10 a day.
All right.
That's how I've always done it with, especially my commercial campaign clients and the budgets I was getting.
Yeah.
Because that lets me build out multiple tests, test a ton of different things. If something is off, like whatever, 2 days go by, I only spent $10. You know, whereas like if you do 20 a day and you forget about it for 4 days, you could blow the whole budget and not even realize.
If you're spending $1,000 a day on your main ad, are you still going to bring in new interests, new creatives at $10 a day?
At 10, no, probably not. You would probably be doing more like 100, 200.
What, 10% of it, is it?
Yeah, something just a less proportion.
Right.
You know, my general rule is I always try to have 10% of the budget set aside for new testing.
Right. That was what I wanted to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you got $1,000 in, 900's going into the core shit that's working, and then you got $100 to just test out some new stuff. Sometimes you have to do more testing though. So that's why it's a general rule. Sometimes we would spend 500 on new testing, you know, because it's like, hey, whatever happened is no longer working. We need to just dial this in a bit more. But we're using less budget when we're doing testing, and then we scale it up over time. So now here's a further example. Hey, interest 4 started working. Interest 5 started working. Let's double these budgets. Now we got 3 that are starting to perform.
Better than me.
Let's test out 2 new ones. Let's do interest 7 and interest 6. Once again, we're using less budget on those to get those dialed in and tested.
What level of the campaign is this when you get to level 3? I mean, what part of the month or months? Is it on like is it still on the first month?
No, this
Or is this
is,
in a like
this
past
is,
2 months?
yeah, it's past several months, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, dude, we've gotten here with like a couple clients. This is more like, this is why we love the marine industry, because once we figured it out and we figured out the audiences that work for the marine industry, we know exactly the interests we have to go after. And all we're doing is making different ads for these clients. So,
So this is like a year after a year, or?
I'll put, dude, there's no rule. You could get there in 2 months, could be 6 months.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It all depends on how much budget you have, how many creatives you're making, how fast you're testing, all of that. Just don't get overwhelmed with scaling big and some of these things that we're going to go over, because it's only like further down the road that you're going to get this stuff dialed in. For you, it really is understanding that level 1 and level 2, just the initial setup.
Right. Right.
Because even just understanding interest targeting before you go meet with any, like say you're going to meet with a financial advisor or a yoga studio or whatever, you can go on Facebook and try to figure out what you would actually target before you meet with that client. And if you find it really hard to find accountants that are looking for cloud-based storage solutions, and how the hell are you going to target those people, don't work with that client. Find something that would be an easier win. It's like with Decade, when I saw there was a boating audience, I was like, the whole audience just for boaters. This is perfect. That would probably work. And then there's a fishing audience, and then a sport recreation. So yeah, it takes time to get to this level. Okay. Now level 4 is where we start to pool the golden geese together, and we're pooling winners into a brand new campaign. Okay. So here's our original campaign. We had ad set 3. So we had interest 3 and creative 2, and interest 5, creative 3 that worked. Let's say both of those were working. What we can actually do is create a new campaign. And instead of running the budget, so if you look here, all of these budgets are at the ad set level. We set it so it's saying, hey, don't spend more than 15 bucks a day on this ad set. Don't spend more than 20 a day on this ad set, more than 15 here. What with that, what we're actually going to do is, we don't have any set up here, but we set the budget at the campaign level. So we'll say, hey, spend 500 bucks a day for whatever is in this. So what you're doing is you're combining the different interest and the different ads into one category, and you're letting the algorithm do its thing. So for us, if we knew with Decade a boating audience worked and a fishing audience worked, and we knew our third creative and our fifth creative was crushing it, what we would do is create a new campaign. We would target boating and fishing in the same one. And then we would put both ads within that and let Facebook just do its thing. Maybe it goes creative 5 to fishing people. Maybe it goes creative 2 to the boating people. Make sense? And then where are we at? So here we go. This is like where your time is going to be spent. Level 1, 80% of the time spent testing new creatives and audiences. So that's where in the beginning, you're just doing like nonstop testing, finding new interests, creating new ads, changing the body copy, like just testing. You remember only doing one of those at a time, but you're just testing all of those things because the testing and that's where all the deep work comes in the beginning. And that's why people charge setup fees, because it's like, you got to do all this deep research, do this, do that, you know. So CTED, 10% of your time is going to be horizontally or vertically scaling those things out. The core of it all comes down in the beginning, and then 10% of your time might be spent pooling winners. Are we doing on time? Okay. We already kind of went over this. Duplicate that winning odd sense and put the new creative in. What was this? And those are pooled options. KPIs we went through. Upstream and downstream. All right. Quick question. So if your cost per click, your click-through rate, and your cost per million are within the range of acceptable, but there are no sales, what would you do?
You look at the offer, you look at your landing page.
Right. Would we keep the ads on or turn them off?
Keep the ads on. Otherwise, you're gonna mess up with the algorithm.
Well, if you're not making sales, how much money are you going to blow?
Oh. Turn them off then.
Within
So,
the range of
Yeah,
acceptable.
so it's like the right answer would probably, like, what I would do is I would say, okay, well, it seems that this is performing, but things aren't happening. Let's go look at the landing page. That would definitely be like step one. Based on what I found there, if I was like, oh man, we need to rework this, like, let's just pause the campaign because it's going to take a week to get this set up, and then we'll retest it again. Or you could also test that ad in a new interest. So maybe the interest you were running it to was kind of interested and they like clicked through, but like it wasn't enough. They didn't have enough pain for them to make the final decision. Sorry, my laptop's gonna die. So you could test it with a new interest, and maybe that maybe that interest starts performing. Maybe it's the landing page. But yeah, it's like that's the other question would be, how much did we spend? Right? If we only spent $10, what do we do?
We carry on. We wait until we spent one unit cost.
So what if my product was $1?
You might want to have a look again at your funnel.
You might want to revisit your business, Ceebz. Yeah, exactly. But this is why there's so many, like, my goal here, once again, guys, to show you, it's like, yes, there's a strategy behind it, but there's also a lot of just like using your own brain and thinking through some of these things. Okay, how much did we spend? What does the product cost? What's the lifetime value? All of that stuff. Yep. Okay. This we kind of went through. Anyone know this? So why is it important to develop your own KPIs as soon as possible?
Every business is different. It's different audiences, different funnels.
Yeah,
They're
I
gonna be-
mean, dude, even if a client tells me, oh, our cost per lead is $50, do I necessarily want to take that at face value? Right? Maybe once I start running, it's 200, and I'm like, hey, well, our leads are coming in at 200 a pop. Like, we got to figure out how to get it down to 50. Were those leads actual quality? What was going on? The more data you get, I stress to you guys this all the time, the more data you get, the more knowledgeable you are, and the more ammunition you have when working with clients to work through things. And just remember, if you ever like are struggling with, I need to prove results, go watch the deep dive with Bryant. Yeah, Bryant, where he breaks it down really well, because like he shares a campaign that he ran for a client. After the first month, they're like, what the hell? Like, no sales. We just wasted all this money. And he's like, well, what do you mean? Like, and there's no results. And he's like, well, here I see your impressions, and here I see what our cost per click was, and here I see what how many people actually came to the page and all of that. Like, so, and we figured out that these 3 audiences don't work. So to say that we didn't get any results is like kind of mind-blowing, because we just eliminated 3 of those audiences, and now we can test these other audiences with these creatives too, and that's how we need to approach ads and clients with ads. Okay, here we go. This is what I wanted to show you guys. All right,
Is
so
that the guy with the dreads?
that Brian is no, he's the scooter dude, African American guy. He was wearing the
Yes.
Dunder Mifflin shirt.
Used to be a pro scooter guy, right?
Yeah,
I remember.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So, and that's what I always think about, like, and when a client's like, well, how do I know you're gonna, like, what are your guaranteed results? I'm like, what's your guaranteed close rate on calls? Like, there's a lot that goes into this. My promise to you is we're going to keep working to dial this in and figure it out, and we're fully committed to this campaign. Like, I just need you to be fully committed. Okay, so check this out. Anthony spent $500 in ad spend, $8,000 in revenue. This is a text from his client. Now, here's his KPIs compared to the benchmarks I just gave you. Cost per million, it's actually lower than the range, right? Our click-through rate, right in the acceptable range. Our cost per click, right in the acceptable range. And our cost per lead, right in the range. Right? So you see how this can definitely be a good guideline for you guys, especially when you start running campaigns. If this was like $80, whoa, something's up. Okay. How advanced do you think that ad was? This is it. It was literally her holding that machine with this text on screen. That ad generated $8,000 with $500 in ad spend. It doesn't always need to be this super complicated thing. This is the exact thing I learned with my semi-truck client. I built all these crazy ads and made them super professional and thought they looked great. And then he sent me a video on his iPhone, and I ran that, and our cost per click dropped from like 150 to 22 cents. So that was probably the 10th ad I created. Once we had that, dude, it was like, so in those initial, that first month or two, it was just test new audience, test same audience, new creatives, you know, just kept going back and forth with that. And then found one that worked and it just took off. These two things to think about here. This is like the majority of ads you see us run. Just know these, they both perform, right? These just take a lot more work, a lot more editing. Whereas a lot of the ads we're shooting now, just iPhone, no script. We talk, we edit it together, we drop simple captions and B-roll on, and those perform just as well. So once again, what does that tell you? That the insanely edited ads perform almost as well as kind of the organic looking stuff. It comes down to your messaging and your offer. That is what's most important. You can have the prettiest ad in the world, just like you can have the prettiest freaking video in the world, but it might not produce any results for your clients. Whereas sometimes the clear, concise, to the point, with the right messaging will just absolutely crush it. That's where we can really come in and help, and also show to clients like, look, we can help do that. You just need to understand the ad strategy behind it. So Anthony gave this client 14-day filmmaker and just said, hey, start going making videos, start sending them to me. Okay. So both of these do perform. One trick I use now, which is kind of ridiculous, but because you can only film widescreen with the phone this way and you can't see yourself, what I do is I take my main phone and then I have a second phone with the teleprompter app and I tape it to this phone. So then I can read my teleprompter, but still film widescreen. Got an old phone. Maybe you try it. All right. What else we got? This is just breaking down. Is this ad? It's not open. So this is breaking down kind of the ad and how we did it. Are you trying to net anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 of monthly reoccurring revenue? Do you want to free up your time, be able to travel more, not have to stress about the one-off projects that come and go, right? So that's the sub desire. And do you not want to spend tens of thousands of dollars going to film school? Do you not want to get ripped off with another shitty guru, whatever, all these things? Well, as someone who went through all of that the same way, I can tell you there's a much better path, and it's not worth going down that route. The simple solution is understanding more about content strategy. Teddy was able to use this to close a $20,000 deal with his client in Hawaii, and James was able to lock down his first retainers across the pond, right? This is the new way for content creators, and you guys do not want to miss out. If you only have a couple hours a week, we know we can help you get dialed in fast. So here's what you're going to get. Boom, 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 boom. This is a no-brainer, blah, blah, blah. That's an ad. Like, that's all we do in our stuff. And this is one day script kind of summed up. So if you guys need to create ads easier and faster, the easiest way, selfie style. Do it unscripted and then edit it together. That's still how I do a lot of my ads. Paul and Anthony are like, oh, just sit and write 10 and just rip them. And I'm like, dude, I don't have that 10 in my head. So what I'll do is I'll pull my phone out, I'll talk for 3 minutes, and then I'll edit it into 1 minute. And then I'll have kind of the core of what I want to talk about. Maybe I go reshoot it, maybe it's good to go. CapCut's sick. Captions is an app, Descript's an app. And then it's all really good. Like your organic content, it's a really good way to quickly and easily test your messaging. If someone's responding to your organic stuff and your organic stuff's getting tons of views and traction, typically that means that would work well as an ad. That's where organic methods always come in solid in the beginning. What questions we got?
I have one. So I know we were talking about Facebook ad, but how different is Google because I am thinking of maybe doing my BNI members business on Google. He has a HR company. Talent HR Solutions, the name of the company, and I was thinking of doing it Google, but how different is Google from Facebook?
So it's the same concept, Teddy. What
Okay.
Google does, instead of us creating videos and then finding interest targeting, you bid on certain keywords. So you're bidding on keywords, and let's say we pick 10 keywords that we feel like people might search for that might want to hire an HR company. What we'll do is we run a test for a week. After the first week, we see what keywords were actually performing, where were all the clicks coming from. Maybe we could eliminate stuff that wasn't performing well. Maybe they were searching for things that you're essentially setting up a lot and then you're eliminating things that aren't working as well. So it is a bit different when it comes to, like, who's done, Lawrence, you've run both. What's your take on Facebook versus Google?
Yeah, it's different. I mean, you're both trying to run traffic, but you know, I mean, as they say, focus on one platform. It was pretty overwhelming trying to set up a client with both, because obviously they're both getting traffic, but setting them up is completely different. I mean, Facebook, you're putting the ads, the creatives. Google, there's a lot to it, because then there's site links and there's a lot of other things to like set up with it. So as far as like setting up the ads, it is pretty different. So
Would you recommend Google or Facebook for that HR company?
right. I mean, that all depends on where your customers are. Are people searching on Google, or do you think you can be like interruptive on Facebook? But that all depends on where they are. But if you are going to do Google, just prepare yourself to take some time to like dive in and figure it out and kind of go through everything, because it is going to take some time for you to figure out how to set it up the right way.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, that's my biggest advice for anyone who hasn't run an ad campaign is just give yourself time. Like, I would always launch the campaigns a week or two early just to try to test and get some things dialed in, make sure the ads would get approved. You know, even if it meant me spending 100 of my own bucks, whatever, it just gave me that extra time to get things in place, to jump on the Q&A call, stuff like that. You know, that's the biggest thing when you're taking on this stuff is like, don't sell a client Tuesday, tell them it's going to be built by Friday, and you're scrambling, trying to go through Slack, trying to get us to help build it. It's going to be quite the challenge. Just give yourself, you know, that's where even saying, hey, month one, look, we'll just start with a little budget. Let's get things dialed in. And then month two, we'll hit the gas. Also can work.
Yeah, that was my plan. Actually, I've actually made a video for myself, for my video business. And I was actually thinking of running that before I run my clients.
Yeah, dude. I mean, test it out. Like, the more muscle memory you have, the more you do. That's even something you could show a client in a sales meeting and just be like, look, this is something I've been running. Look, I'm getting clicks for $1. You know, like, we can do the same for your business. And the reason I've always liked Facebook more, Teddy, too, and I've shied more away from Google, is there's lots of just Google, like direct Google people out there. And Facebook, I feel like we can use our video content more. Like through Google, yes, you could do YouTube ads and whatnot, but that's a whole other animal too. So when it came to finding clients, our thing was lead gen on Facebook through strategic video content, because that is what helps separate us from anyone else who could just run Google PPC and has 10 years experience and tons of case studies, and that's all they do, you know? So
A lot of information, huh? On
yeah,
Facebook.
it's just you know, everything's different. Every platform's different. Like, you want to start a YouTube channel, it's going to take time to dial it in. You want to run Facebook ads, it takes time to learn that. You want to learn how to do videos, it takes time to learn that. So just know it's like the more platforms you're trying to learn at once, the more complicated it can be, and it's going to slow you down from becoming a bigger expert on one versus the other.
Do we run these ads from our own business's ads manager, or do we create an ads manager for the business we are working with?
Yeah, so I always recommend creating a new business manager account when you start working with a client instead of taking over their account. The reason being, one, oftentimes these accounts were set up years ago from an old marketing person or someone who not at the company, they don't have their email anymore or whatever. And sometimes it can be hard to, I broke up.
You froze for like
He froze.
All right.
Chris has become the Bond villain.
All right.
He
So
doesn't tolerate. Yeah.
what was I just saying then?
you were create a new business manager.
So create a new business manager account and set up that campaign in that new business manager account instead of taking over the client's thing, because oftentimes it was set up years ago and the marketing director who set it up or whatever, they're not at the company, they don't have their email, they can't get you access to stuff. It just turns into a clusterfuck. So that's the first reason. The second reason is it's your protection. If the client sets up the ad campaign and makes you an admin, guess what they need to do to secure your ad funnel that you spent time obsessing over for the long term with this client? Just boot you as an admin. Now they have your funnel and they're just crushing it. Oh, we'll just run it from here, you know? So it gives you that little bit of security. Just like a client hires us to deliver a final video product, right? That's what they're hiring us to do, is create that video for them. Not necessarily, I mean, sure, sometimes they say, hey, here, we just need raw footage or whatever. But ultimately, a client's hiring you to create that final video for them. When they hire you for ads, they're hiring you to send traffic to their page. They're not hiring you to build them an ad funnel that you just hand over to them. Okay. So I've always liked setting up my own account. At the end, if they want to stop working with us, yeah, we'll give you all the ads, all the creatives. That's all yours, you know, and you guys can just build your own campaign.
Are we talking about both Google and Facebook here,
Yeah.
or just Facebook?
Both I usually
Both,
like
okay.
to set up on my own. And then the other thing is, I've had clients that, because they're in the account, they get all the notifications and then they send you a million messages being like, oh, what was this? What was this? What was this? I'm just like,
do you create a separate account for each client, or you just have like
Yeah.
one master account?
no.
Yeah.
Separate accounts for each client, because theoretically what would happen is if like the Decade account gets banned, all my other accounts don't get banned. When I did the first ad account, so the first one I did, you see DNC Media, this was me testing before I ever ran ads, but I made my first client under that, and it's just sloppy. So now we just create a new one for each client that we work with. That's an old one, but you guys get the idea.
No limit to like how many business accounts you can create.
I think it's only 8. So like I'm at the limit now. I gotta figure out how to delete some of these or just remove my, like, I'm not doing anything with this chiropractor anymore, or this old Decade account, or the concierge in Napa, or 7-day owner operator. So, but it's like one of those things that until you have to do it, just make a new one. What else we got?
But
Um,
it's just one Facebook, what do you call it, account, or
Business manager account.
business manager account, and then you add different accounts in that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we always tell them we'll set it up, we'll handle that, you know. We can make you an admin in there if you really need or whatever, but it just streamlines the process across the board.
If you delete an account, are you losing like important data, or is there a way to save that?
I get that a lot from clients, like, oh, well, we want you to use this account because our pixel has all the data and this and that. And it's like, what happens if your pixel has the wrong data? You know, Like oftentimes whenever we take over a campaign, we start from scratch. Maybe we look at what they did in the past, we get a sense of what happened, but then we're going in using our knowledge to make it better and get it dialed in.
And then if you stop working with them at some point, like you mentioned those old clients you had accounts still for, would you, and you delete those accounts, are you losing information that, like, what if they wanted to start up again?
Pay another
Or are
setup
they
fee.
expected? Oh, okay.
They
I just
pay
didn't know if you had in, yeah.
Yeah, no, because like, let's say someone dropped off for 6 months or whatnot. You know, by the time we got going again, maybe their offer changed, maybe this or that. Like maybe we could run stuff again under that, but it hasn't happened to where when we stopped working with someone, they come back. Because if I'm stopping working with someone, it means I don't want to work with them anymore, and they're getting the boot, and they're not allowed back in.
Can I jump in now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been running the Facebook ads for the course, and people aren't really on Facebook for education. They're on there to, disappear into their feed or whatever. Is it probably better to be on YouTube rather than Facebook for this coaching and course thing? Because we're asking for such a high dollar amount.
No, I mean, we're doing
We do both.
200,000 in sales each month on Facebook for educational products. The difference is the higher the offer is, the longer the conversion time, the longer it takes for someone to turn into an actual conversion, the more you're going to have to spend on that stuff.
It's okay. We're only 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
I just rebuilt the whole thing. Just curious about the Google thing, how fast I should jump over to that. So, but yeah, let's
focus on one, dude. And like, I would just say Facebook, in my opinion, still is one of the best.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Okay.
And I'll like over the next couple months, I'll be building out more YouTube trainings with what we're doing as well. So we can get you dialed in on that quicker.
Right on.
Any other questions? If no questions, then feedback. Was this helpful? Was this kind of something you guys already knew? Do you want me to go deeper into anything around ads in another workshop? Where's your guys' heads at?
Yeah, it was really good. I heard a lot of it before, but I needed so much of it being consolidated. And now things are really starting to sink in and gelling and getting solid in place. Especially now I've got the answer to we're setting up an account for each new client. That was always my first question, because that's where you start, isn't it?
Yeah.
And some other ideas. Yeah, I would like a little bit more about the ongoing testing when you get to phase 3. At some point in the future, I get the initial test, and I think I get the scale, but it's when you start to kick in and keep testing little other ideas just to make sure everything's optimized and fresh.
Yeah. Think of it this way. If this is add 1 here, add 2 here, add 3 here, and they're all to different interests. We're taking those 3 interests and we're putting them in 1. So typically we never do this early on in a campaign. If I ran an ad for Decade to fishing, boating, and outdoor recreation, and it crushed it, which of those interests actually crushed it?
Yeah,
I don't know. So I want to run one ad to fishing, the same ad to boating, the same ad to outdoor rec, 3 different ad sets. Now we'll see which of those audience actually is performing the best. Now, let's say they're all crushing it and they're all performing and they consistently are. That's where you can group them together and say, hey, Facebook, take these 3 things and find the people that are into all of that. And now run these ads to those people. What happens otherwise, if we set up 10 different interests and we say we need an entrepreneur and CEO and C-level executive and marketing director, Facebook is trying to find someone that checks all those boxes, which you're basically compartmentalizing the algorithm way too small. Okay. So we want it to be a little bit more broad in the beginning, and going back to like, we can only test so many things to see cause and effect. If we have 10 interests with the same ad, we don't know which of those interests worked. Or 9 of the interests could fail and one could actually be crushing it, but overall it looks like the campaign failed. So that's why we do it early on in the beginning. And then over time, James, you're going to have, man, these 3 audiences just keep working, and these 3 ads are just crushing it everywhere I test it. Let's just throw all that shit together and say, Facebook, go to work. And that's where you shift it from ad set level budget to a campaign level budget. And you just put all of that in there, the 3 interests under one, the 3 ads, and you just say, hey, Facebook, spend $500 this month on this, or $500 a day, or whatever.
So it's like you're kind of rendering all the ads together into one final video.
Yeah. And
way.
you just let Facebook do its thing. It's creepily smart. Like, I don't even use hashtags for social anymore, because 10 years ago, Facebook knew if I posted a 6-second clip of a polar bear riding a bicycle, balancing a ball on its nose, the algorithm knew what it was 10 years ago. So what do you think they got now with AI advancements? They're smart, very smart. They're probably listening to us right now.
So I had a BNI meeting yesterday with, I'm gonna be working with, and the HR BNI member. So he mentioned that he needs a marketing, because he doesn't have any marketing people. He mentioned that he needs a marketing guy. So I'm like, ching, that's me. But as far as like, my plan with him is doing the ad campaign. What else can I pitch him? Like, should I pitch him SEO, or?
Do you do SEO?
Huh?
Do you do SEO?
I know a girl that actually was in my BNI meeting too.
I mean, so this is where Earn the Deal comes in. What are his other pain points? How is he acquiring customers? How much time is he spending in sales meetings? Would it make sense to do process videos? Would it make sense just to have one strong brand video that he could send to individual people? Is he doing outreach? Do leads come to him? Where do those leads come from?
Word of mouth and BNI. That's it. I'm like, and he's been in freaking business for like over 8 years. So I'm like thinking, I can be that whole freaking thing.
Dude. I mean, even if it was
marketing
like,
for him,
even if it was just more social content, that's going to help him keep establishing himself as the authority and get word of mouth business.
That's part of
where else does he want to expand? Maybe, is there any other key areas that he wants to focus on? What's the long-term vision? Just start understanding some of that. And I feel like opportunities will start to present themselves.
Yeah. I'm going to have a second meeting with him. Actually, no, I didn't even have a first meeting yet. Did I? Oh, no, I did have first meeting, but I'm having the second phase 2. I'm going to present him the proposal, but I'm like, man, I'm going to pitch him more stuff with other things. So, and he's like, he trusts me, man. I've been in his, our BNI group for like over a year now. So he knows me, he trusts me. So I'm freaking in there. So
sweet. Yeah, dude. Get in there, see how you can help him out.
Yeah. Tomorrow's the meeting. Crossing my fingers. My catamaran lady is like started freaking ghosting me. I just texted her this morning. I was like, hey, you wanna talk about that proposal? I just wanna touch base with you. She said she'll sign the freaking the proposal like fucking Friday night, or no, Monday. She said she'll do it Monday, and I'm like, the fuck date is now? It's like freaking Wednesday. I like,
yeah, when it comes time to spending money, some people just slow down as much as they can.
yeah. No,
Goes.
it happens.
Sweet.
Sorry.
All right,
Sorry
guys,
for-
I gotta bounce here in a minute. So announcements, tomorrow we got the Q&A call. Yeah, tomorrow Q&A call. I think I'm gonna see some of you guys on 101s. Next week is a Go High Level workshop. Definitely tune in for that. And other than that, let's just keep making moves and closing some deals.
All right, guys.
Sweet. All right, guys, good sesh. I'll catch y'all later.
Later.
Peace.